two of Britain's only viable shale gas wells are to be filled with concrete, in spite, that is, of appeals that they be used to help plug the UK's yawning energy gap. More than 2 years ago, the government ordered a moratorium on fracking at the Preston New Road site in Lancashire. Boris Johnson said to be resisting calls for the resumption of work there. Worse still, for those who believe fracking can create tens of thousands of British jobs and produce cheaper energy, the industry regulator has now said that the wells must be permanently sealed up. Well, the former White House strategist to President Trump, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, joins me now. I'm delighted to say. Seb Gorka, thanks for your time. What do you make of this decision?
Sheer insanity. It's still the cheapest form of energy. When we came into the White House, President Trump unleashed fracking on all the state lands that Obama had blocked. And for the first time, think of this, Colin, for the first time in the history of our republic, we became a net exporter of energy. We didn't have to rely on some cartel in the Middle East like OPEC. We didn't have to grovel to that KGB colonel in the Putin to buy in the Kremlin to get cheap gas from Russia. And as a result, those regimes were weakened, bad guys were desperate, and we became stronger. So the idea that the UK, I hear about these new increases on heating for the average Brit. It's sheer, utter insanity. It is the worshipping of Mother Gaia. It is environmentalism as a religion.
And what do you say, Seb, however, to those people who hear what you're saying? They hate the fact that their energy bills are going up by £600, £700 in the UK. They hate the fact that effectively those bills then go to cross-subsidise despotic regimes, be that in Russia or be that in the Middle East. But they also are worried when they read headlines about things like earthquakes.
It's just a Cassandra-like hysteria. Look at the facts of the matter. If you want cheap, safe energy, you go with what? You go with nuclear. That's the logic. You go with the natural resources that are available to you. You don't go with the doomsday cult of the world is going to end like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says here in America, or Greta Thunberg, the prophet of doom for Europe. No, it's a fact. I grew up in the UK under Maggie Thatcher. The boom of North Sea oil resulted in what? An economy that was the envy of the world. Now you are literally cutting off your nose to spite your face. You don't have to be afraid of Armageddon scenarios and earthquakes. Look what happened in the 1980s in the UK. That's the way ahead, and stop worshipping these false prophets.
Seb, I want you to labour this point because I don't think it can be really laboured enough. Just how revolutionary it was, the reshoring of jobs made possible by energy so cheap that suddenly you were able to open factories which had been mothballed for years. I just wondering if you can give our viewers that sense of how transformative this may be. By the way, not quickly. The wells I'm talking about here, even if you got them fired up tomorrow, the gas wouldn't really start flowing in earnest for another 10 years. But we're talking about something in the medium to long term that could be absolutely transformative.
Think about just the facts of what we did when we came in. President Trump, in a matter of just 3 years, before he actually left office, created an American economy that was the largest economy the world had ever seen. Just some data points for you, Colin. We had U.S. factories bringing back their plants from places like Mexico. We had the lowest unemployment for women since the 1960s. We had the lowest unemployment for minority Americans, that's Black, Hispanic Americans, since record keeping began. That's because we unleashed the energy. The energy is the blood. It is the life force of any economy. And the UK, as a historic manufacturing nation, needs that energy, not just to heat your homes, but to actually build things as well. These are the facts of the matter. And what happened? Think of the hostage to ideology that is the Biden regime. This senile old man comes into the White House. First day in office, he signs an executive presidential order to shut down the XL Keystone pipeline from Canada, which lost 10,000 jobs in one day in America and 30,000 in Canada. Both sides of the aisle in Canada, the Conservatives and the Labour, didn't understand what this man was doing. But he was paying obeisance. He was kneeling at the altar of Greta Thunberg and the environmentalists. If you want to have a roaring economy like the one I grew up in under Thatcher in the UK, unleash the fracking, unleash the natural energy. We are meant to be stewards of this planet, and we should be using that energy for our own citizens.
Sebastian Gorka, as ever, very, very thought-provoking indeed. Seb, thanks very much indeed for your time.
Cheers.
Alice Grant is alongside me there. I'll just pick up one point that Sebastian Gorka made there with great eloquence as ever. I mean, the 1980s, I remember them, you don't live through them. Yes, the Thatcher boom that he talks about was good for parts of the country. For many parts of the country, it wasn't. But actually, a lot of those parts of the country that suffered, things like the coal mines closing, the shipyards closing, heavy industry closing, they are precisely the parts of the Rust Belt in America that Seb Gorka is talking about being revitalised by cheap shale gas.
Yes, indeed. If you look at Texas and Pennsylvania, these states which were withering away and now had seen this gold rush of an industry. And I look at the north of England right now. Obviously, we must really start pouring in some effort into making north of Britain flourish again. Something interesting I felt was that he mentioned Vladimir Putin, who of course was pouring in money campaigns against fracking and against gas shales. And yeah, he was funding the campaigns, the misinformation campaigns, and of course our gas supply is controlled entirely by Russia, which leaves us obviously in a vulnerable situation.
Our gas supply is not completely controlled. I mean, they have a controlling hand to some degree.
Only recently they shut off. Our lights went out, and there was nothing we could do. The point is, we must take advantage, I think, of this industry, and of course, and we have gas-rich rocks in the north of England. I mean, what are we doing? It's self-sabotage if we don't.
We'll talk about that some more a little later on. Alice, for now, thanks very much indeed.